Myself, Advocate Shahbas. I'm the Assistant Legal Aid Defense Counsel of an entire district, also a criminal lawyer and a motivational speaker, and also a pioneer of independent research. So the first take, what happened is I chose engineering without knowing myself. Like every other 90s kids, I came to the conclusion that my dad was like, which engineering course do you want? I was like, I like cars, so mechanical. All right. He got me a mechanical engineering seat. That's it, done. Before a semester, I dropped out because I was not having an interest in those subject, or even I was knowing nothing about the fact that what I know in engineering or the scope of that particular subject in me. So eventually I dropped out. But still, going through this process, the entire process is the reason why I'm standing here. Now that is because of this, the art of independent research, learning things by ourselves and researching on it, meditating on it, and finding answers and true solutions on it. So this is what I did. I was contributing to this 32% of average undergraduate dropouts from India back in 2015-16 time, and I was making no use of my whole career. And I would have also contributed if I chose engineering and went on saying that my parents liked engineering and I didn't, then I would have contributed to this 14%, which eventually is a result of average unemployment, because there is nothing in me, right? So the question to what I am right now, the answers to what I am right now involves in this vibrant story. So this is what I did actually. I went through a process of independent research by following theories which is absolutely practical for each and every one of you who could do this in just your study table, nothing more else. So this is how it works. This is how I choose law, and I'm an advocate now for years and years and very successful. So this is the Kaizen approach, a formal approach followed by the very famous brand Toyota. And Kaizen approach is actually very simple. It is an idea to create continuous improvement based on the idea of small ongoing approach changes that can reap significant improvement. So now let's say you have an interest, but you really don't know how to develop it. But the actual process is not the biggest development part, but actually the process is with the smaller ongoing improvements. That is how Kaizen approach works. There is a clear theory stating that once you follow this ongoing small changes, eventually you will result into a significant idea or significant model or a significant inspiration that would actually change your entire life and make a career for you. So this is how I did. I took a relying information, I found the problems out of it, and I created a solution, and I tested the solution and analyzed the results and executed and invest more time on it and improve the process cycle one by one. Now, let's say you have an interest on pottery. All right. So now you have to create and analyze what are the things that has to be done for a pottery because you got interest on it. Now you take that relying information saying that how much sand, how much water, how much mud has to be mixed eventually to make a good pottery. Now you test it by yourselves, you evaluate the results, and you finally become a person who have some knowledge on pottery. But eventually that doesn't make a career for you, or that doesn't make any income for you, or that is not even the best thing that you could do in your entire life, because this is just like a passion for some time. But you could actually go on further and find that whether this is the right path or not by following the next steps. That is proactive improvement. Let's say I said you have to find how much mud, how much salt, and how much water has to be used eventually to make a good pottery. So that is actually, now when you go to the next level of finding a shape or a size of a pottery in which you have an interest, let's say, if that is the case, you're going through a process of proactive improvement. That is not perfectionism. You may fail, you may crumble, the whole pottery may be, broken down within minutes, but it's not the matter. It's a matter that you're still trying on and eventually finding better results because you are eventually interested in it. And you will find it someday because this is a part of proactive improvement. That is step by step, not perfectionism, but proactive, small improvements ongoing for a bigger change. Also stepping into the topic, which you get proactive improvements and then work transformation in professional way. If you even find independent research as a homework to do in your study table, eventually as a part of a hard work process, you have to get out and you have to test it. When you test it by yourself, eventually it will fail, but when you keep on trying, you're actually going through a proactive improvement process, and then finally getting results. But without knowing yourself, you are doing it because there was small success in between, in which you might have succeeded one shape or the other, but the next you fail. But eventually you keep on doing it, then it is a part of this whole process. Now, as I explained this whole bunch of theory is explained by a Hungarian American scientist who's also a TEDx speaker, of course. His name is Mihaly Robert, and he is called as the father of flow and proactive psychology. Now, what I said is, eventually you keep on trying this small 6 feet pottery, then you eventually one day you will have a dream. You will have a dream of being the best at it. And there is a challenge, there is a flow, and eventually you want to get it out of it, right? So now you will finally, from making small 1 feet pottery shapes and knowing the results that you can do it further, now you will dream of something much bigger. Let's say a 6 feet whole pottery, you want to do it. But how to do it? So there is a clean process that you have to follow in order to do it and make sure that you are capable of doing it. And that is where Mihaly comes. He has an experience of flow is when you're having the balance between the challenge and the skill. Now, for example, I would say you are the first person, as your family, you are the first person to find a solution for that 1 feet pottery, and you finally found it and you made it. Now, the skill that you have and the challenge of a 1 feet pottery was balancing. It is not a huge deal for you. It is like a piece of cake after some time, right? So the first take, you succeeded. Now, the challenge and the skill are both balanced. But eventually, when you dream of a 6 feet pottery and you only have the skill to do that 1 feet pottery, you will eventually not go through the process of flow. If there is no cause of flow, there will be no proactive improvement and there will be no Mihaly's theory of flow. So, this is where you have a clarity of goals. Now, as I know, the clarity of goals is stating that what mixtures that you have to go for a 6 feet pottery is more important than how to measure those and make sure that this will stay for some more time. So you have to have a clarity of what you want, when you want, and how you want it. And also the control over the task. That is like you have a clear plan of how to execute your goal or how to execute a better career out of a topic when you dream and research independently on particular occasions. Eventually you should be able to control the whole task. Otherwise you will get boredom, you will get pressurized, and you will drop the task eventually. And then you will find effortlessness, which means you will find it ease when you start doing it. So from nothing you came to 1 feet and you started dreaming of a 6 feet pottery, and you eventually kept on doing it because there is always an effortlessness while you are trying it. And there is another reason for that ease and effortlessness. And that is to experience the flow in a distant goal. That is the whole 6 feet pottery is what the distant goal is, and then actually results in mastering it, because you are actually not into the goal of making the 6 feet pottery, but you are actually going through a process of perfecting or mastering the whole art of pottery rather than that 6 feet pottery. Because without knowing yourself, you're going through a process in which eventually you will master the art of pottery, but not just the whole 6 feet pottery. That is psychologically done behind this process. Now, for this whole process, for this whole dream, you definitely need something which I got when I choose law, and when I didn't, when I choose engineering. That is called motivation, and there are two types. One is our extrinsic motivation, and which is short-lived. Like I chose engineering, which is basically nothing. It was short-lived. I like cars. Engineering is another thing. There is no motivation for me. There is no subject matter between it. I dropped it. So there is a short-lived dream, and there is no proper external goal. There is an only external goal is that I like cars, but not engineering. So there was a short-lived dream, and that won't sustain much for years, even if you try harder. The other one is like I chose law, and why I'm here. That is intrinsic motivation, long-lived, and doing is fine. Which means basically, even if I fail in law, even if I don't become a good criminal lawyer, I'm happy in doing it. There is a whole good process in which I like, and it is fine for me. So that passion, that moment is called eccentric motivation, and that is what you have to search for in this entire process after you're 12, or after you drop a college, or after you drop a job, or whatever like me. Now, For that example, I would say, I can start a new career right from the desk without knowing the exact history or the topic of it, but I can really start from a desk and I can still eventually research on it, not just because I choose law, but even without having any much relation to it, because I'm following this whole Kaizen approach and also proactive theory. Then I get into the flow and finally I keep on achieving. So this is some of the topics that I personally researched while I was a law student, but that has nothing to do with law. So which means I, being an independent researcher, can start a topic from scratch and can master at it with a consistent time and flow. So this is it. Only the red ones are the ones connected with the subject of law. All the other ones doesn't have anything to do with law, but I still mastered it. I still presented papers, I still went on to events and I spoke for the topic, I still researched it. So how is that even possible? Because there is a consistent amount of time that I followed for this whole process, and eventually I kept on mastering it because I was having eccentric motivation, which means I can really start something from desk at any point of time, at any age, and be a master at it by following whole this process. If that is the case, how that case could be explained to you much easier is by this graph. Now, with an example of my own life, I would say engineering, I had the huge big challenge and there was less skills. So actually I was having anxiety, which means anxiety doesn't give you flow. So the challenge was high, the skill is less, so I got anxiety because I was having a high challenge that has nothing to do with it, and eventually in time I dropped. So if you choose your wrong career, if you choose a wrong topic in your entire future, eventually you will fail because if you identify that it is only a part of anxiety and not growth. Now, something like if I choose, let's say I'm the best person in Adobe, okay? And if you give me a task in Microsoft, I would get boredom, right? Because those two things are different, right? I'm an expert in something and you're giving something which is much easier for me. So eventually I will not research or do independent research on it or be a better person on it, because eventually I will get boredom because I have more skills and less challenge. So eventually I will get boredom and I will drop it, and the whole process will not go for so long even if you want to, because there is no eccentric motivation. But as I keep on challenging me while I improve my skill, something like from understanding the solutions of a pottery to dreaming of a 6-feet pottery, there was a huge process of challenge and skill developing each other, competing each other, and balancing each other, like what Mihaly said. So this is how growth actually develops. So when there is growth, there is increasing challenge and decreasing skill, and both otherwise. So when the challenge gets higher, the skill has to be developed so and so. And when the skill gets higher, the challenge will eventually grow. And that is how I am here in an eventually better small amount of time. Because as the challenge grew up, I developed my skill to that particular challenge. So when I chose law, how did I crack it? How did I crack it, right? So that is a process. There is a process to how I cracked law from nothing, knowing nothing, to something I am today within a short amount of time. So this is how to prevent dropout, and this is also how I prevented another dropout after choosing law. That is, basically, write down your topic. Let's say you write down 10 topics, okay? Among one or two, you will definitely have a future, you will definitely have a theme in your mind, but you have not fallen much interest. If you go through the process of independent research, eventually you will stick on this topic. That is for some time more. And now download the toughest syllabus and the easiest syllabus. So when you finish your 12th grade as in India, you take the topic, you pick the toughest syllabus, like the best syllabus in the entire universe, you just pick it and you go through it. And if you start solving, if you find it easy, my friend, you're going to get boredom in future, because that has to be actually tough for you, because you know nothing, right? Now, if you pick up the easiest syllabus and you find it challenging, but you still are able to go through the process, eventually you take the challenge out and you make it as a flow, then you're going into the first year syllabus, second year syllabus, third year syllabus, slowly you're researching it independently, then you have something in yourself. You will definitely not have a dropout, because eventually you sure have something on it as a basic of balancing the skill and challenge. And then go with the mentors. What we fail most of the times, even I, When I choose engineering, I didn't have any idea. So I didn't have any mentors to whether choose it right or not. So go with the mentors, go with the experts who have done this. Also, solve the problems by yourself before getting anything. Now solve the problem and the test whether the solution is correct. Then evaluate the results of flow with the challenge and the skill, developing it each other and balancing it each other. As you can see, at the age of 25, I got into the government council as an assistant legal aid defense counsel, and I came out all the way from all that depression, from all the dropout feelings when all my friends got into a better career. As only the result is because I found what is the way for me. Now, if you could find the way for you, when you, even can you be 60, even can you be a 6, even can be after 18, or when you drop a job, or when you drop a college, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But the only thing is, it's not the bad time to start. It is always a good time to start when you know what and where to put your knowledge and time much. Thank you. This is Shahbas, and thanks for the opportunity.